if I'm dealing with an owner occupant who's lived there 38 years, they've got all kinds of sentimental stuff that they're reliving, going through their mind and all this. And I'm not going to put an offer down on her table and say, Molly, you got 30 minutes. Make a decision now.
You're listening to 5 Hour Real Estate Week, where you'll learn to consistently buy real estate in only 5 hours a week. So if you're ready to invest in real estate, achieve financial freedom, and own the lifestyle you deserve, even with your job, this is the show for you. Now, here's your host, Mike Butler.
Okay, hello there. Mike Butler here, and welcome to the 5 Hour Real Estate Week podcast. And today's topic is Throwback Thursdays. And you're going to love this one. You can call me Molly. So let's set the stage for this. This goes back a number of years ago. And there was a lady, an owner-occupant seller, who wanted to sell her home. She lived in it 38 years. And her husband had died. And she talked about how the kids would go to the school across the street and the church across the street and all this. Long story short, her kids wanted her to move out of that home with steps. And they wanted to move her into a patio home. And so this lady's name was Miss Robinson. So I had my good friend, Jay Long, who was with me. He was like my accountability partner back in the day. And we would travel around the country going to workshops, boot camps, seminars, all this and that. And we would share our goals and strategies and things like that. Call it friendly competition in a private, confidential manner. So he was riding along with me that day. And I said, I got a house to go look at down on Jefferson. And so he says, you mind if I go? I said, no, come on, let's go. So I went in there and I met Miss Robinson. She was living in her home. It was a 2 to 3 bedroom home, owner occupant for 38 years, had a basement and had a 1.5 car block garage with an alley behind it. Pretty good. I liked it so far. And it had a big kitchen with new cabinets, and it had not been abused. It had not been a rental property. And so this thing was pretty nice. So if you recall, I'm going to share with you one of the biggest things that you can do to get sellers, to get motivated sellers to jump over to your side of the fence to help you create a deal and get them involved and creating this deal, making a deal for you. So one of the first things, so we walk through the house and she shows us the house and this and that. And so I think we might have sat down at her kitchen table. And, of course, this lady was lonely. She was elderly. And I let her go on and reminisce about all the family activities she had here in this home and this and that. And you could see her heart and her tears, her eyes swell up and all because she was moving on to another chapter in her life. And so I asked her, I said, Miss Robinson, what do you like to be called? And she says, you can call me Molly. Everybody calls me Molly. And she just went on about that. So guess what I did? Now, keep in mind, I was raised old caveman style where we said, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am, yes, sir, no, sir, called everybody by Mr. Brown or Mrs. Brown and what have you. That's the way I was raised. And if you didn't do that, we got a little jaw adjustment. And so I asked her, and I've been taught and just it's in my brain to respect elders, and I think it's a good thing. So I said, Miss Robinson, what do you like to be called? And she says, you can call me Molly. So guess what I did from that point forward? I called her Molly, okay? And this is huge, believe it or not. So the lesson here that I'm getting ready to share with you is to call people by their first name. And if you're not used to doing that, I want you to start right now, promise yourself, that you're going to practice this today. So when you go to the grocery, those people have a name tag on. I can remember I went in the Kroger grocery store and this older lady at the checkout lane just looked like she was pissed off at the world. And of course she has her name tag on. I said, Louise, did somebody poop in your Wheaties this morning? And she looked at me and she laughed like, how'd you know my name? Well, she forgot she's wearing her name tag. And so that opened her up and she threw up on me a little bit and bingo, boy, she liked me and she gave me some coupons and it works very well. So here's how you can practice this every day. Promise to yourself that when you meet somebody, restaurant, checkout lane, whatever, grocery store, blah, 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 and practice calling out their first name. So Louise, blah, 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 blah. Okay. And then try to say in every sentence until you build that mental muscle memory. So let's get back to this deal. So anyway, I said, okay, Molly, what else? And I do my genie bottle story. So I've got a genie bottle, and part of the questions that I ask a motivated seller is this. Listen carefully because it works. Molly, Okay. What else do you need to have happen along with selling this house? Not a home that has emotional attachment. We buy houses, we rent homes. Okay, Molly, if you could rub a genie bottle, what else do you need to have happen along with selling this house? And she says, I've got a refrigerator down in the basement, and I promised my nephew who lives in Cincinnati that he could have that fridge. And if you're going to buy this house and you're going to close on it tomorrow or the next day, that's going to be a big problem for me. And I said, okay, Molly, well, how about this? What if my guys take that fridge and put it in the garage out back so that your nephew can stop by anytime he wants, get in the garage, and he can pick up the refrigerator? How would that sound? Oh, Molly was just ecstatic over that. That was very, very important to her. In fact, my gut says that's probably more important than selling the house because she made that promise. She had to keep her word. So we put that deal together. Now, this house, as it sat then, the ARV, okay, it's not beat up. It doesn't need repairs. It's a little outdated, yeah. It had indoor-outdoor carpet in the kitchen, but it was fine. But you might want to swap that out. But anyway, the ARV at that time was about $60,000. And so I put my offers together and presented them to Molly. And she agreed, and we had a meeting of the minds where I bought this house for $17,000 as is. And remember that genie bottle question that I asked Molly? That fridge was so important to her that I wrote down in my offer that the buyer shall move fridge from basement to garage for Cincinnati nephew to pick up whatever. And she saw that and she just smiled. And folks, she wasn't going into a nursing home. She was going into a patio home. And so this was going to take that albatross off her back and allow her to move whenever she wanted to move. And we worked all that out. And so remember at the beginning of this little episode here, I told you about my friend, Jay Long, friendly competition accountability partner. And he witnessed all this. And he says, holy cow. He says, I never really thought about approaching people in that manner because Jay is more like a black and white, here's my offer, take it or leave it, it's good for 30 minutes, and boom, bam, thank you, ma'am. Okay, where if I'm dealing with an owner-occupant who's lived there 38 years, they've got all kinds of sentimental stuff that they're reliving, going through their mind and all this, and I'm not going to put an offer down on her table and say, Molly, you got 30 minutes, make a decision now. I don't think that's right. I wouldn't want somebody to do that to my parents, and I trust you wouldn't want to do that to your parents. So I would give them, I don't know, let's say that it's right now, it's 12:15, and so if I'm sitting there with Molly today and it's a weekday, I'd say, okay, and I might give her till 1 o'clock tomorrow, 1 p.m., 24 hours tops, okay? That's about it. And then she can chew on it with her kids and this and that, ask any questions. And I feel so much more comfortable doing something like that. Well, Molly, get this, because I treated Molly with respect, called her by her first name. Did you know that lady sent me 2 more deals? And I have had folks, now I'm going to talk about Jay Long again. I've had Jay Long meet a seller before I do. Trip over each other. I'm not going to say Louisville's that small a town, but when you're doing that kind of volume, we do bump into each other. So he'll go to a place and he'll see my business card on their refrigerator. And then sometimes I'll meet with them and they'll say, well, they had another investor that they really didn't like. He was cold, acted like a slumlord, this and that. And he said, here's my offer, take it or leave it. You got 30 minutes. I've got more houses to go look at and to buy. Well, that really kind of ticked them off. And when Jay saw how I did what I did, this is true. There have been properties where I've gone to meet the motivated seller. Yep, you can call me Molly. And I made my offers to Molly. And then Jay might come in behind me and offer as much as $5,000 more. But he's got this cold, crisp, black and white, cut and dry. Here's your offer, 30 minutes, take it or leave it. And then there were several times when that seller would call me back and say, you know what, Mike, we had another investor offer us more money, but you treated us better, and I just didn't like his attitude. And so we're going to go with you. Now, his offer is $5,000 more. Well, remember this house that Molly has, the ARV at the time was about $60,000. And I ended up buying this thing for $17,000 as is. And I wrote in my offer about the buyer moving the fridge to the garage so that the nephew from Cincinnati could get that. And boom, closed on it, rented it, and wow, great rental property. And we actually sold that thing probably about 5 years ago. But great rental property, had it for decades. And so the lesson here for this Throwback Thursday is you can call me Molly. So I hope you got a good bunch of golden nuggets there that you can put into your buying system, into your system of when you're working with motivated sellers, either on the phone or face-to-face, how to treat them, how to talk with them, how to do more listening than preaching. So with that, I'm going to sign off here. We'll see you on the next one. Adios.
Glad you joined us for another episode of 5 Hour Real Estate Week. The best thing you can do now is put this information to action. To help you get started, Mike created a free resource for you called How to Buy 50 Houses a Year, Even with Your Job. Download it now by going to mikebutler.com/50 houses. And we'll see you on the next episode.